What is up, team, and welcome back to another episode of the Technical Fowl, episode 99. We're one away from 100, which is wild to think about. We started,
March? Because
March, so like
one of our first episodes was March Madness stuff.
Yeah, so about 8 months ago, and we're almost 100 episodes in, which is pretty cool. Today, I, Jack Anderson, am joined by Sanders in studio, and then JP's on the phone. Say what's up, JP.
What's up?
Thank you. How are we doing today, Sanders?
I'm doing fantastic. Just wrapped up a basketball game at Mississippi State, which was, we got a win. That was huge. Josh Hubbard went sicko mode and dropped 30. I mean, it was absolutely insane. That was really cool. Was home for a couple days, which was nice. It's with my job and with the podcast, it'll definitely be a lot of back and forth over Christmas break, going home, but trying to spend some time there. So that was pretty cool.
Sure. What have you been up to since you got home, JP? Anything big, or just chillaxing?
Man, I wish. I get home and every time it feels like I drive home and I'm driving home to do a bunch of stuff, and then I get here and there's nothing to do.
Brutal.
So I have been absolutely nothing. And it's more brutal because like I mean I bring my PlayStation and whatnot, but all the things that I enjoy doing and I'm the most comfortable doing is in my own apartment, and now I'm
Sure.
here. It's not as comfortable, but I'm doing well.
That makes sense.
You can
I'm sorry.
better
that
at
hopefully,
Siege.
hopefully some stuff comes up for you to do. Today,
I hope so.
you
Yeah.
hope so?
First
Cool,
episode
cool.
was 9 months ago.
9 months ago.
36 minutes.
It was a much shorter. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know the last time we've had a show anywhere near that.
Episode 1 was. We'll talk about it all for episode 100. We'll do a brief recap,
Sure,
so I
sure.
won't get into all that. But as we have grown, the length of time that we can talk has also
So
grown.
Sure. Today is the NFL weekly recap show is what I was trying to get out of my mouth, and for some reason it was so difficult. So yeah, we're not here to reminisce on our 100 episodes, but we were gonna just do weekly takeaways, playoff picture, go over the games we previewed last Thursday, and then get to the totem pole and the pyramid, which should be a ton of fun as the Spurs are currently getting cooked on the offensive glass.
Yeah, are
in
you
a
going to be able
horrible way.
to do a podcast
I will,
with
yeah.
the Spurs
Especially
on?
if we play like that. I mean, that's just horrendous. 3 straight possessions, giving up at least one offensive board. We'll start, as we always do. Sanders, your favorite thing from the NFL slate this past week?
I mean, my favorite thing was the Chargers eliminating the Chiefs from playoff contention. I hate how it happened. Hated seeing Patrick Mahomes go down with an injury, but we can get to that further in some of the big weekly takeaways, and we can talk about that injury. But it was a big win for the Chargers. I am someone who I was super excited about the Chargers at the start of the season. They start 3-0. And then down that middle of the games we've played, we're 14 weeks in, 15 weeks in. So through that middle 5 weeks, losing to the Commanders, losing to the Giants, close game to the Dolphins, losing to the Colts. It was just I was a little pessimistic. But now they've bounced back. And other than that Jaguars loss, they have won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their last 8. I think may have miscounted, but. Except for other than the Jaguars game, they've been on kind of a tear. Just won their 3rd in a row, beat the Eagles, beat the Chiefs in back-to-back weeks. So beat the defending Super Bowl champion and the runner-up. So it was just a big week and kind of re-excited me after I had gotten a little pessimistic as the season was going, and I was just pessimistic with the offensive line, and I was just like, this is we have a very low ceiling team because of the O-line, and Justin Herbert can only do so much, as great as he is. And he is great enough to be top 10 in Pro Bowl votes, which he's not currently. Did you see that?
I didn't see that, no.
Yeah, the top 10 quarterbacks in Pro Bowl votes came out, and Shadur Sanders is number 10, and Justin Herbert is not on the list.
Well, that's what happens when your fan base reeks, and it's minuscule, the size of a teaspoon, half a teaspoon.
What did you say, JP?
It's a great point from Jack. The fan base doesn't really.
Did
help
you vote?
No, I did not vote.
There we go.
Yeah,
There
that's
we go.
on me. That's on me. I'll start voting.
Yeah, you got to get in there. Hashtag vote for Jay Herbo or
I mean, if
whatever
I'm
it
voting
is.
for anyone, I'm voting for Raheem Mostert. Did you see he tweeted, was like, you can vote for me here?
No, but that's funny.
And he has like 9 carries or something this season.
Yeah, is your favorite moment of the week along the same lines, JP? Your favorite team getting a win, or do you have something else?
That is my favorite moment of the week. You wouldn't have guessed it, but the New Orleans Saints, who are at this point, I think anything's possible. We might end up finishing 7-10, which would just suck. I would hate that, but we have a lot of positive momentum going to next year. But it would be, I guess maybe I would be able to go back on some of the Saints comments and reply back, because we didn't finish 2-15 like some of the people
Didn't
in
you
those
predict
comments thought.
7-10 preseason?
I think that's what I ended up on.
Sure.
I can double check. But that was my favorite moment of the weekend. Look, this is big news, and I was gonna wait on this and then maybe just kind of show up with it, but I want to go ahead and say, get this out front that I will be getting a Tyler Shuck jersey.
I knew
for
that's where
As
that
you
was
should.
going.
Same, I did as well. He's gonna be the starter, so
Yeah, he's going to be the starter long term. I hope this doesn't end up like my Derek Carr jersey purchase.
Sure.
But it doesn't look that way right now. And yes, I did predict them to go 7-10 this year. I need to pull up their actual page and see how close I am from game wise. I'm actually not that far off. I had them three wins into the bye week 10 and then finishing out pretty hot, sweeping the Carolina Panthers, and we're right there.
yeah.
That's the biggest part for me, sweeping the Carolina Panthers. Look, I don't like the cuss, but how dog shit that franchise is and how terrible that team is, for them to come and talk all the crap to us and to myself specifically, and then get swept by a Saints team that is kind of on pace for really the worst year as a franchise since pre-Drew Brees. This is one of our worst years record-wise we've really ever had.
Yep.
Certainly in my life, we've always been at least semi-competitive. Even the Derek Carr years were fine.
Sure.
Last year we finished 5-12. That was our worst one we've really ever had since pre-Drew Brees. And pre-Drew Brees, it was 3-13, and then he came in and we won the division. So for us to be in our worst year and Carolina to supposedly, according to them, be in one of their better years since Cam Newton, for them to be swept by Tyler Shuck is just hilarious to me.
It can't feel good
And,
for them. Bryce Young had another
also-
Bryce Young in this game.
Yeah, yes, he did. He's not good. He was not good as well. Tyler didn't blow it up statistically, but he had a really, really good and efficient day, I'd argue. He made some really key throws. He was our leading rusher. That's something that wasn't really seen in this game. We could not run the football because we're rushing with essentially 2 rookies and Devin Neal, the 7th round pick from Kansas, and Audric Estime, who's in his 2nd year from Notre Dame. We did not run the football this weekend, and yet Chuck, led us to a victory over apparently a good Carolina Panthers team. So for me, that was my favorite moment.
Sure.
I'm happy we got that win. That was a huge win because now it really puts Carolina in a tough hole. They've got to come home and play the Bucs. Their problem right now, because they lost and got swept by New Orleans, if they finish with the same record as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, assuming they split their final 2 games, Tampa Bay gets in no matter what. So they're in a tough hole. They've essentially got to sweep the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to make the postseason and win the division. So a huge win for the Saints in terms of knocking that team out.
It's really funny that they got to hold on to the division lead for all of 3 days before the Saints ripped it away from them, and just kind of gave it back to the Bucs. I'm trying to think what my favorite moment of the week was.
I feel like it's not your team because you're pretty bought into the tank at this point.
Yeah, but I think it is my favorite moment because you say that, but then winning a game still feels really nice.
Yeah.
And beating a divisional opponent in the Giants and also beating an Ole Miss guy in Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
Feels really good all around. So I was happy to see us pull that off and prove that, unlike the totem pole had last week, we aren't the absolute worst team. in the league. We can still show some fight and beat up on some bottom dwellers.
I was told this. I didn't see it. Have y'all sidelined Daniels for the season?
Yeah, he's done. It'll be Mariota to finish, or Mariota, however you want to say it, to finish off the last 4 games.
3.
3 games. He gets to play the Eagles twice. Which I know Cowboys fans are saying a prayer that we can do something, and I'm just going to say right now, not a good place to be, Cowboys, to hope that the 4-win Commanders beat the Eagles twice.
Yeah.
Other key takeaways from the week for y'all? Games that stuck out to y'all? Aside from the 3 we previewed?
Do we want to start?
We can circle back around to Chiefs.
I'd say
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Start with the all injuries or specifically the Chiefs game?
Specifically the 2 injuries, but I know we previewed Packers Broncos, but
Yeah.
I'd still like to talk about
Sure.
that as out of a whole and not just the game specifically. We can talk about the game later.
Let's do it then. So both Mahomes and Parsons tore their ACLs towards the back end of their games. Mahomes was in the 4th quarter, I believe.
Yeah, second or
On
third,
the
the last drive.
Final drive.
Yeah.
Cool.
Less than a minute left.
And so he's done for the season. Will probably miss the start of next year as well. It's someone did say he'll never take a snap. He still won't have taken a snap eliminated from the postseason.
Yeah.
Because he got hurt before they got eliminated after they lost. But it's crushing for them. I don't want to say it's fitting because that's a terrible thing to say about an injury, but they've been kind of fighting against this futile endeavor to try and suddenly go on a run and win games when they're simply not very good. And so to have the guy that all your hope was resting on go down with this kind of injury right as you're getting eliminated, that just kind of it seems fitting in that regard.
And
that it happens in the same week.
It's almost so last season it felt like every opponent they played was cursed. Missing field goals, blocked field goals, 1 possession losses to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs just seemed destined to always win by the skin of their teeth. And now that's flipped this season to where now they felt like the cursed team, losing in 1 possession games. Xavier Worthy gets hurt on the 3rd play of the first game of their season, and he was supposed to be a big piece of that offense until Rashee Rice came back. And now Mahomes goes down and just kind of feels like another piece of a cursed season this year. So it does suck to see. JP, I know you want to talk about it, and I imagine you'll talk about your prediction, and we can give you your roses for that. But go ahead, JP.
Yeah, this was predicted. Patrick Mahomes was on ACL watch coming into the season. And in large part, the reason that was predicted was because he hasn't had a catastrophic injury. He's only missed it's either 1 or 2 games, and that is only when he dislocated his knee on a QB sneak in Denver in his 2nd or 3rd season. Other than that, he has not missed any time, and I think a large part of that is a huge testament and credit to Patrick. You never hear about him being hurt. He was apparently dealing with this knee issue in the same knee for the better part of 2 months. We've seen him play through so many different injuries as well.
Yeah.
He won a Super Bowl on a high ankle sprain, which is the worst of the ankle sprains you can have. He has been a warrior, an absolute warrior, and he had been so far for much of this season, really carrying the team higher than they really deserve to be, even at 6-8 now after the Chargers loss. But this was something I thought was just in the cards, and I didn't think it was in the cards because of the reasons that it happened. I just thought at some point he's due to have some kind of injury. Every quarterback ever has had some kind of injury. We talked about in the preseason, Brady, he tore his ACL, which, funny enough, he tore it in the same exact season, his 7th year in the NFL. But other greats have had.
Manning had back problems.
Injuries.
Breeze had his issues at the Chargers in San Diego.
I mean, Daniel Jones just tore his Achilles.
All the greats.
Aaron Rodgers had multiple.
Broke his
injuries,
collarbone.
including collarbone. So it was due, and with the way the season had gone, it was also due as well. When he has no
Exactly, yeah. Yep.
run game, and so he is forced to run. We joke about and kind of talk about variance, and we talk about shortening the game to maximize the variance of the game. In this case, it's different. When you maximize the amount of times you have to run and take hits, you maximize the variance, meaning you
Sure.
maximize the amount of chances that you can get yourself hurt, that your leg can get caught up like it was when that Chargers defender went to tackle him. And so you have to, everyone talks about it a ton, protect yourself a ton as a quarterback and try to limit yourself from being in these dangerous situations because things like this can happen. Without all that being said, like, I take no pride in him being hurt. No one wants to see him hurt.
Naturally.
It takes a huge piece out of what was going to be so, for the Chiefs haters, funny and really and fun about them missing the playoffs and telling them that they suck now and that they need to stop crying about the refs. Isn't that hilarious how that's turned on its tail?
Yeah.
Because now it's kind of just copped out into a Mahomes injury, but I wouldn't count him out. It doesn't seem like it was a really, really bad one from the reports I'm hearing.
Sure.
And it's about a 9-month timetable. 9 months from now is September. That's the beginning of next year. So I think he will play next year, and I think he'll start the season next year. That being said, will he be the same player? No. And so maybe it could be a huge opportunity for him to transition into a new era for him in terms of the way he plays. He uses his legs and he escapes and he just gets himself out of impossible situations so well. But if he's going to chase Brady like he clearly wants to, and much of Chiefs fans and Mahomes fans want him to, he's got to learn how to play in the pocket more.
Yeah.
And protect himself in that way, because he's not going to be able to run like that forever. We've seen that with Aaron Rodgers. Just think of Rodgers in his last year as a Packer to now. That's a 5-year separation, and it's night and day different how mobile he is. It very well could be that for Mahomes. And no athlete coming off an ACL injury is just going to pop right back into where they were. So he might get back to where he was. But I think of like Ronald Acuna. Once he tore his ACL, came back the next year, and he was just a hitter. He couldn't run anymore.
Yeah.
We had to play him in the DH a lot more. You had to play him in right field. He couldn't play center field anymore. I don't think that's going to be much different for Mahomes. I think you'll have to limit the amount he uses his legs a ton, and he'll have to learn how to play from the pocket more.
I completely agree, especially like the initial months when he comes back. Just kind of still trying to protect that leg. I also wonder if it would be kind of a wake-up call for the front office and the franchise of like, okay, this guy is really so good, but maybe we could help him out a little bit. And as he potentially transitions to this later stage of his career where he has to use his legs less, what can we do to make that transition as easy as possible for him?
That's exactly what I was about to say. And there's an opportunity here for the front office. Now they're 6-8. I don't know exactly where their draft pick falls off the top of my head, but with every loss,
it gets fall around 10 to 12.
Yeah. And with every loss, I mean, Gardner Minshew's your quarterback now. There's a possibility that you lose, or there's a likelihood. I'm pulling up their schedule now, that you lose more games down the stretch of the season. You play. I take that back.
Raiders.
Yeah, Titans, Broncos, Raiders. So it's almost a worst case scenario because now you play two of the worst teams in the NFL, the Titans and the Raiders, and you play the Broncos. So there's an unfortunate chance that you go 2-1, but there's a possibility, there's an opportunity here for the Chiefs, like Jack said, to kind of like the front office to take this as a wake-up call and get some pieces for the O-line. Jawan Taylor is a guy that I talked about in the preview, and I've talked about all season as a big liability on that offensive line, the number of penalties. He's tied for the NFL in most penalties this season. I think he had the most last year and maybe the year before. He's just a huge liability at tackle. They drafted a guy this year, Josh Simmons, who has not been playing a whole lot, but more investment in the offensive line maybe you get you find the heir to Travis Kelce, another check down, another consistent weapon for Mahomes. But getting him help on offensive line, I think, is a huge part of what the Chiefs will be looking to do to address in the offseason, because this is something you can't waste. You can't waste the prime, because I mean Mahomes is what, 31, probably 30.
I don't think he's hit 30 yet.
Is he not? Is he
I
still
don't
in
think
his
he's
late
quite
20s?
that old. I'll double check the age
He is
for us
30.
real
He
quick.
turned
He was
30
drafted
this
in
year.
17, so he's probably 29.
He turned 30 this year.
Okay, he turned 30 this year.
So
Interesting enough, you look up his age, his dad comes up first, so it popped up as 55 years. I was like, that's not right.
yeah, so the Chiefs need to avoid wasting what could be and what should be the prime of Patrick Mahomes' career. Because I mean, age 30, you've got guys who like Matthew Stafford who were cooking in their 30s, Aaron Rodgers who's into his 40s now, but like his 30s were his prime. Like this is a great time for quarterbacks. It's not like other positions where they hit 30 and it's a drop off. They can keep slinging it for years into their 30s. So I do hope the Chiefs will use this as a wake up call.
Yeah, I think so.
they've got a great opportunity, because think about the Mahomes era and think about the Chiefs on draft night. They have been drafting in the high 20s and low 30s. Now they're going to get to draft in about 10 to 12 every single round. That's 20 picks earlier every single time. So it's you talk about don't waste Mahomes' prime for the Hunt family, and if it's Andy Reid next year, and the Chiefs organization, don't waste this opportunity that you rarely get of getting a really high pick in every single round and get some really good young talent to infuse in this roster. I think about like when the Warriors had all of their injuries and Kevin Durant leaves and they end up getting the second overall pick and take James Wiseman.
Yeah, don't do that, Chiefs.
Turns out terrible. Like that's something that can't happen for Kansas City, because look, the Warriors end up winning a championship because Curry's the GOAT and he can do that kind of stuff, but they wasted that pick. Don't do that if you're Kansas City, and I think it becomes a really big draft, which we're really excited for. We're getting ready for some draft prep here in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
And I can't wait for that show.
I was just curious. I wanted to see Brady tore his ACL in 2008. Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay, I was trying to find. It looks like they did not draft. I was just curious, like what they did coming out of that season with their draft pick, but it looks like they did not make a draft pick that year, so they must have traded it. So no comparisons there. But do we want to talk about the Parsons injury?
Yeah, let's pivot to that.
It's Parson, right?
Parsons.
Is it Parsons?
I do believe it's Parsons.
It definitely is.
It's Parsons, and then our Parson is Parson.
Yeah, it's
correct.
Chris Parsons.
Yeah, Chris Parson, Mike
Different.
Parsons. Yep.
Which impact player on the opposite side of the ball. One of the most critical players for the Packers, Micah Parsons, goes down, tears his ACL trying to chase down Bo Nix. And now everything changes for them. This was kind of why everyone loved them as a Super Bowl contender. You had this kind of explosive playmaker on defense that could really change the game, and he was making plays. He was covering up a ton of their defensive issues. They've kind of struggled to get pass rush presence outside of him, to be honest. Looking at some of Rashawn Gary's numbers in particular of late have not been great. So now he goes down, and he's someone, especially the position he plays, you worry about what the explosiveness and stuff looks like when he comes back. But that's even an aside. Looking at this season, it feels like the window maybe has closed a little bit. And no, I'm going to get this out of the way. Jerry Jones, this does not mean you were right to trade him. This does not mean, this is not a Nico Harrison. Now I hope people are finally starting to see the vision type of moment. It's just a brutal injury. Yet another one. And I think you said in the chat, JP, both happened on grass, which is brutal for the banned turf argument. But y'all's thoughts on this injury and what it means for the Packers season and their future?
Yeah, I did end up saying that it is both of those injuries happening on real grass is tough. The no turf spiel, but I'd still ban turf.
Oh, of course.
I think it might be too early to just push them off. And I say that as a guy who believed in them and picked them to be the number one seed before Micah was traded for. I thought all the pieces were there, but it is going to be really hard to replace Micah Parsons. I'm gonna credit Nick right here because he said this on Monday, but imagine if like the Chiefs in one of their Super Bowl years lost Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, and it was just Mahomes. Now replace Mahomes with Jordan Love. You'd have a lot less faith in that team than when that team had Tucker Kraft and had Micah Parsons. So I completely understand why people are back and backing up from Green. I think it really becomes the next 3 weeks become really, really high leverage for Green Bay, because if they can win in Chicago next week, that's massive because it'll really help them towards the division, and then beat
Sure.
a hot Ravens team in Lambeau in Week 17 and clean up business with 9 in Week 18, then they can be the 2 seed. It's really hard for them to be the number 1 overall seed with Los Angeles and Seattle, but they can be the 2 seed at least. And if they're the 2 seed, I like them in 2 games against 2 teams they would more than likely be better than.
Yeah.
Because just for instance, if Green Bay's the 2 seed, this is your likely playoff path is Green Bay host Brock Purdy in San Francisco. I like them. The second round, assuming Seattle or Chicago upset Philly or Tampa Bay, you are hosting Philadelphia or Tampa Bay. And Philly beat them in Lambeau a couple weeks ago on Monday night, but with the way that they're playing recently, I think I like them there. And so then if it's just 1 game in Los Angeles against the Rams, we've seen them show up and shock people in just 1 game. And so if they can put that together, they're in the Super Bowl. So I think the next 3 weeks become really, really critical because that gives them the best path towards a 2 seed is if they win out. In fact, if they win out, regardless of what Chicago does, they will be they'll win the division and they'll be the number 2 seed. So next 3 weeks are really critical because if the playoffs go through Lambeau, I think it's a really difficult place to play.
Yeah.
And I think it gives them the best chance. But that being said, it is a brutal, brutal injury. It really does change a lot. And now it sucks for Green Bay that this is a year where all of the NFC teams look really, really darn good. And if it was, last year or 2 or 3 years ago when it felt like there were just 1 or 2 teams, you'd feel a lot more confident. But Chicago's playing really well. Seattle and Los Angeles look like 2 of the best teams in the NFL. San Francisco is putting up great performances with nobodies, a bunch of rookies and young guys.
Insane what they do.
Philly's the defending champs. Carolina Panthers fans think they're the best team in the NFL, and Baker is excellent in the postseason. So it is going to be really, really tough without Micah. But I still think they got the pieces there if they can take advantage of these next 3 weeks and the opportunity in front of them.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. You mentioned the game, I think, in Chicago just means a ton for kind of the morale, and I wonder about the belief of the rest of the team. If they could go get that win, kind of be like, yeah, we can still do this, even if we don't have our best defensive player. It's kind of the Packers' identity, right, of like, we are more than one guy. Where the parts are greater than the sum. They typically don't even make these kinds of moves, right? So if they could go get that win, I think it could actually really turn them around. I think that's a good point. But it is just tough to see. He's so fun to watch. There's nothing maybe more heartbreaking than watching someone suffer an Achilles or ACL injury and just kind of seeing all the emotion on their face and frustration, and they're not even really typically like, it's not even a pain thing that makes it so heartbreaking, but they just like know that they just did something that is going to render all their hard work and all the effort they put in pointless at least for a stretch. So it does just really, really suck to see.
Yeah.
Anything else on that point, or should we move on?
No, we can get to the games we reviewed.
I mean, let me make sure there's no
other weekly takeaways.
shout out, I guess. Phillip Rivers playing throwing a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Keeping the game close. Though really it was the defense keeping the game close, but you lose 18-16 on a Myers 56-yard field goal as time expires, basically. And so now the Colts are still at 8-6. You got to think they got to find at least one more win, if not two, to lock up a playoff spot. And you host the 49ers, you host Jacksonville, and then you go to the Texans.
I mean, yeah, currently I believe the Colts are not in the playoffs
Correct.
right now.
So you're probably going to have to find two more wins against three playoff teams.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, as sad as that is. I mean, they potentially go ahead.
They actually more than likely need to win all three games.
Okay.
Because
even worse.
If Jacksonville just wins one more game, they're already at 10 wins. They'll have 11. Houston, it's a critical one when playing Indianapolis, but Houston still has the Raiders next week, and that's a guaranteed win. I would go ahead and argue. And then they'll play the Chargers and that offensive line. And even though it's in LA, I like Houston there. Both of those games put them at 11-6, and that's their only path to making the postseason this year. So I think they're going to have to win all three. Look, you already said the path is pretty hard for two anyway. So
yeah,
sadly, it may be done for Larry and his Colts.
And as much as we can be impressed by how Phillip Rivers played, and they lost by one possession, they lost on a game-winning field goal to one of the best teams in the NFL. I don't think that a good performance or even an average performance from Phillip Rivers is going to be doable week in and week out. Just because at that age, I have to imagine, like, every time I watched him get hit, I was just like I am 23. I'm not old. And whenever I get hit, I'm like in a game or, if I trip or if I'm playing Frisbee and I die for Frisbee, like I'm sore for a couple days and I am not 44 years old. I have to imagine that his joints and the hits that he's taking to his body are going to leave him hurting for a week or more. And then you go into another game and they start to compound. I just don't know if I would be confident that he'll be able to rack up the hits of 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and it'll be 4 weeks in a row to close the season because he played last week and then 3 games to close the season. I just don't have a lot of faith in his body being able to hold up, and that's not a criticism of him. That's something that I've heard people say about Brett Favre often, is that it's not Brett Favre's mind and it's not his eyes or his ability to throw. It's just that you get to the age when you get hit or when you get hurt, you don't just get up and keep playing. Like, you stay hurt or you stay banged up. You're not able to recover it the same way you were as a younger player. So that was kind of my concern in bringing Phillip Rivers. It was never his ability to play quarterback, but it was his ability to play quarterback week in and week out consistently without being held back at all by minor injuries.
I will say he's kind of got introduced a little bit of dad bod into the equation. That may help him take some hits.
Maybe.
Give him a
he
little
looked
cushion.
like a coach out there.
It was pretty sick.
I love seeing it. I just am concerned about his ability to perform at that level for 4 weeks in a row and then go into the playoffs.
Yeah,
I don't know how he feels about drinking, but like he feels like he should like get to have some cold ones on the sideline while he's playing, and like that might help him with the pain.
I think that's fair. I think if you're over 42 or something like that, even if you're over 40, sure, why not?
I think other positions it should be lower age because it's a lot harder to get there.
Nah, because we want it to be rarefied air, and I think it makes so much sense for the quarterback to just kind of step in, sling the ball around a little bit, come sit down.
I don't know. Some offensive line, it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, maybe that's fair too. There really weren't a ton of big impact games aside from the ones we broke down and the ones we've already talked about. The Bears beat up on Cleveland 31-3.
That's huge.
Back-to-back rough weeks for Cleveland's
Myles
defense.
Garrett is now a half sack away from the NFL record, and he's done it on, I believe, less pass rushes than T.J. Watt and Michael, is it Strahan that holds the record
Yes.
right now?
Mhm.
I think he's done on less pass rushes than the two of them, which is something that I love to see as a guy who, one of the things I don't like about the season expansion is what it does to records and all that. It makes it a lot harder to justify supporting guys breaking records now, because I feel like we're like ignoring the fact that it's a different era of football. And you can say it's a different era, the forward pass and all that, but we just play more games now. It's a different era. So seeing Myles Garrett do it on less pass rushes is really cool. Seeing wide receivers who are pushing to break records in receiving, but are doing it on more yards per game or more yards per catch, stuff like that, where it's like, yes, they do have more opportunity, but they're capitalizing on that opportunity. That's really cool to see. Love to see that, because it makes it less like sad to feel like we're erasing history unfairly.
I mean, in all likelihood, he'll break it before the 17th game of the season.
Yeah.
The record that is. So that's cool to see. Aggie legend, Gig'em.
Yeah.
Baltimore beat Cincinnati 24-0. And for any of these games, y'all just stop me if y'all want to toss something in. Is this the first time in Joe Burrow's career he's been shut out?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But it's another great sign for the Baltimore defense that continues to hopefully come around and help out an offense that has struggled a little more than we expected it to. So that's a good sign. For the Bengals, horrible franchise, just struggled to get many things right, and it's just kind of another lost season. This one due to injury, but I'm not really sure it would have gone all that great even without the injury. Down the list. Shout out my Commanders. We already mentioned it, but 29-21 victory over the Giants. And so now I believe, is it the Giants face off? We may get like a playoff game for the first overall pick. No, it must be the Raiders face the Titans, so that's the game I must be thinking of.
Yeah, it'll be. No, they don't. The Raiders do not play the Titans.
Okay, I just made something up there. Who did the Titans play last week?
The last week they played the Jaguars. They do play the Saints, and we've talked about that being a battle, but the Saints have been winning games now.
I either just misread the stat, misheard the stat, forgetting the two teams. Either way,
the Giants play the Raiders.
The Giants play the Raiders
in 2 weeks.
So they're basically facing off for probably the second pick.
Yeah, that's probably. I would say that's
that
likely.
Must be what
right
it
now,
was.
I think the Titans are have the first pick, and they still play the Chiefs, the Saints, both at home, and then go to the Jaguars. So I don't see them picking up. Definitely not 2 wins. Maybe they sneak out a win. They just get a crazy game, but that would surprise everybody. But yeah, it in all likelihood will be Raiders versus Giants. The loser gets what they want and gets the second overall pick.
Sure. Which we just mentioned the Raiders, another bad loss for them. Another one of the many bad teams that lost this weekend in horrendous fashion.
Only 3 games away from 2-17, 2-15. Excuse me.
They lost 31-0. Got blanked by the Eagles. Moving down the list, Jacksonville won 48-20 against the Jets, and I know it's the Jets, but even the past couple weeks, I think we're really starting to see this Jaguars offense round into form. There's been a lot less videos going around of Liam Cohen looking disgusted on the sidelines, throwing his hands up in the air. Trevor Lawrence is really rounded into form in this offense, and it's also coincided with a Tampa Bay Buccaneers slide that has a lot of people kind of being like, maybe Liam Cohen really was the driving force of that Bucs offense and that Bucs success. I don't know if y'all have any thoughts on that or Trevor Lawrence's performance of late. Moving on. Go ahead.
I'm just happy to see him playing better.
Sure.
I think that's the biggest thing as a Clemson Tiger fan, and seeing Trevor play better, and it does feel like they're getting some confidence there. But I don't think don't take too much away, or don't take too much from these past 4 weeks, because they did play essentially the Colts without Daniel Jones, the Jets, the Tennessee Titans, and the Arizona Cardinals.
That does help.
We're 5 weeks removed from them blowing out the Chargers, and that was their last, honestly, truly impressive performance. All that being said, with how great the NFL is, when you feel like oh, this team is turning into a fraud, and we'll have a conversation like this in a little bit. You get tested at the right time, and Jacksonville goes to Denver this weekend. So we'll know about where they're at in terms of how they'll fit into this postseason on Sunday.
Yeah, it's definitely been an easier slate, but we've not really seen, no matter who he's playing, this kind of sustained run of success from Trevor Lawrence. So I'd argue it's encouraging regardless of who it's against. Last couple games, the Texans beat the Cardinals by 20, 40-20. Pretty good day from C.J. Stroud. Trey McBride did his thing, although on the losing side. Not really much to add there. It's more of the same from both of those teams. The Cardinals love to lose. They do, simply put. 49ers at home beat the Titans 37-24. Brock Purdy throws for 295. Good win for them. They just keep rolling despite the injuries. You're playing the Titans. You really should win. Get Cam Ward some help. And then the last game that we haven't touched on yet, 9, as it's been said in the chat by Chromie, to no surprise, beat Dallas 34-26 on Sunday Night Football.
No surprise that they beat Dallas, or no surprise that he said 9 in the chat?
No surprise that he said 9 in the chat. I feel like he's probably said that once for all of our shows ever since the nickname came out, to be honest. Tough loss for Dallas. It's technically not over. But to me, it really feels like it's over now. Like, if you couldn't beat the Jaguars, goodness, if you couldn't beat the Vikings, I just don't expect you to go on a run and get the wins needed, combined with the fact that the Eagles have to really choke down the stretch for you to get in. So I'm kind of ready to put the nail in the coffin on that one.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see as this season goes on and as it wraps up what the thoughts around J.J. McCarthy are going into the offseason. And JP, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. I mean, he's become a meme. He goes for 250, 2 touchdowns and interception. I think, and then I'm incredibly biased as someone who has Justin Jefferson in fantasy and in the playoffs in a fantasy league. Justin Jefferson, 2 receptions for 22 yards. It just feels wild that a quarterback and a young quarterback can't get the ball to his best weapon and one of the best weapons in the NFL. Do you think that's an indictment of J.J. McCarthy as a quarterback, or what are your thoughts on J.J. McCarthy after throwing for 250 and 2 touchdowns on Sunday, JP?
Well, we talked about it on the broadcast. Evidently this year, and Justin Jefferson said this when he talked with Chris Collinsworth earlier this week, that teams have been giving him coverages that he has never seen before in terms of different ways of double teaming him or taking him away. And so that is, in his eyes, really diminished the way that he's been able to produce, because he's not seeing the kinds of double teams he's used to seeing. And then on top of that, it is, and a huge part of it is that it is J.J. McCarthy, and he doesn't have the experience throwing the football as an NFL quarterback or a collegiate quarterback. He wasn't a quarterback who was a gunslinger at Michigan. He was a guy who handed it off, and then he was, his biggest characteristic was that he was a winner, a guy who played with a ton of confidence. And so when he was put in some bright moments, he made some really critical plays, but he wasn't forced to throw it 25, 30 times a game. The more you throw it, the more volume you can get Justin Jefferson. So I think that is, in large part, the 2 reasons that it is a tougher year for Justin Jefferson and his production. In terms of 9, J.J. McCarthy, I just want to see, just some better mechanics, better control throughout the game. His mechanics are really bad. The comp that a lot of people have used that are trying to defend him is Josh Allen right now, and they're right in that. Go watch Josh Allen's throwing motion in his rookie year compared to his this year. It is light years different, and it's light years better. Maybe that it is in the cards for JJ, but I'm just gonna have to see it to believe it, because he's had some really, really bad games this year, and then he's had some really bright moments and some winning moments. I would start him next year, but this is the problem, in that Minnesota has been and is a roster that's ready to win a Super Bowl. They have the coaching, both on the offensive side of the ball with Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores defensively, to win a Super Bowl. They have the players to do so. They have two good backs in Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. They have a fine offensive line. They got a tight end in Hawkinson. They got two really, really good weapons in Addison and Justin Jefferson. And then defensively, with Brian Flores, they can get after you, and they play really good ball. They have good veteran leadership and guys like Harrison Smith. So this is a roster that is ready to win a Super Bowl, but JJ isn't. So that is where I think the biggest problem lies. It makes me think of just a year ago or 2 years ago with the Indianapolis Colts. Like, they were, and you could even argue now, are ready to win a Super Bowl with that roster.
No QB,
they
though.
Can't get the quarterback figured out, and Anthony Richardson was starting, and what went south. It didn't work. The roster was good enough that Gardner Minshew had them one throw away from making the postseason and winning the division. No different to last year, where Sam Darnold was good enough to win 14 games.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest problem, is that Minnesota team and roster is ready, but the quarterback isn't. And I think that is in large part where all the kind of backlash towards JJ is coming from, is that it feels like the team is underperforming because of him. And it's not his fault necessarily.
And that's very fair. The team definitely has underperformed. Their win total, I think, it might have only been 7.5, but most people expected them to go over on that number.
I think I took the under.
And for JJ, and talking about, you can compare him to Josh Allen, right? For every one Josh Allen, you mentioned the Colts, so he's on my mind, but there's 20 Anthony Richardsons.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Where the improvement and the mechanics never change, and he never grows, and he just stays the same. And I'm hoping JJ is more like a Josh Allen than Anthony Richardson. But the data doesn't suggest that that's the outcome. That's like the highest events outcome.
Yeah.
That's the most optimistic you can hope for.
Yeah.
So for now, it's just, I think we need to see what we have seen from him the past couple weeks. Is he's not going to suddenly snap into perfect throwing mechanics and perfect decision making overnight, but he is making better decisions each week, and has more good throws each week than the last, and statistically he's improving from week to week, which heck of a low bar, but you still like to see it, and so he just kind of needs to grow on that, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. And I will say, I was talking about Justin Jefferson. He did lead the team in targets, so they are trying to get him the ball and get him opportunities. But I guess the way that they're handling him and approaching that is different than previous years, and it's working. But yeah, it also kind of reminds me of like late 2010s, early 2020 Browns with the defense they had and the offensive line that they had. And they had Nick Chubb and OBJ and Jarvis Landry, Myles Garrett. They brought in Jadeveon Clowney for a year before. I mean, he was still only in his late 20s, so he wasn't even, aged out of his prime yet. They had Denzel Ward on the back end, and they were investing in other defensive players. Grant Delpit they had back there, another LSU DB whose name I can't remember. Like, they had so much talent, but they couldn't figure out quarterback. They had Baker Mayfield, but there were issues there, and they couldn't figure out coaching. They were just always missing a piece or two, and it felt like they wasted so much of the offensive line that they had and the defense that they had, and the offensive weapons they had. And it would suck to see the Vikings kind of go through that same situation where they've got everything set up now, and then maybe they figure out quarterback eventually, or maybe they don't, but these guys start to come up for contract extensions, and they just can't keep it all together, and they can't keep biding their time until they find the right guy at quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's get into these games. The Bills went to New England in need of a win to keep their division hopes alive, their hopes to win the division alive, though that's still no guarantee despite the win. And it did not look good at the start. They found themselves early in a 21-0 hole, and Patriots fans were already celebrating online. They were like, we're back. Bills, you had your time, but we run this division. And Josh Allen and James Cook and the boys said not so fast, and they just reel them back in. Pretty quickly they apply the pressure. They keep scoring. The defense steps up in a big way. They only give up 7 second-half points, and they end up winning 35-31. Huge victory. Y'all's thoughts on this game?
Well, you speak to it. I can attest that a lot of Patriots fans were celebrating. I've got 2 of them in my family. My brother, who's a big one, saying MVP for Drake May. And then my father, who's also a Patriots fan because of my brother, saying beat down with 4 exclamation points. Get Super Bowl tickets now. My brother then responds, all those questions of us being a for real team seem to be being answered right now. It's like Brady is still there.
Crazy.
And then, of course, you have Dave Portnoy's reaction, which was then fact-checked by Twitter.
What did he say?
Shout out Twitter for that. He was saying that the Patriots are back. They own the AFC East, all of that. And then, of course, Buffalo makes a comeback. They score 5 straight touchdowns. That is, I think, when they did that, only like Kansas City in their really shootout era with Mahomes are capable of doing something like that, and is what Buffalo did on Sunday. 5 straight touchdowns is so demoralizing. And on top of that, it's not like it was extreme explosive plays that were having these touchdowns. New England was having the explosive plays. They were having the huge rush and the huge long touchdown plays. Buffalo was just James Cook twice, Josh Allen 3rd down, James Cook twice. Oh, he picked up a 1st down. James Cook. Oh, Josh Allen makes a key throw. Oh, a huge catch from a Bills receiver, one of their 7 receivers. And it was 5 straight touchdowns. I cannot imagine how that building would have changed vibe-wise. I would maybe attribute it to how it felt in Starkville when the Longhorns made their comeback. Although that was a very similar score in terms of comeback. I think it was a 20-point comeback, if I'm not mistaken, right? So
maybe
not
just 17
bad.
points, but it was a 3-possession comeback. It was a 3-possession comeback.
Not as bad. Look, I think my biggest takeaway is that New England, for a quarter and a half, showed that they very easily could just run up and down the field on a team like Buffalo, and that with their home field advantage, they can take advantage of that and slow down a team like Buffalo. But then they got popped in the mouth. They celebrated too early, both their fans and then even on the sideline. Like, you look at the guys on the sideline, it felt like they were celebrating already. This was if the Patriots won this game, they would have been crowned the AFC champs, or the AFC East champs, meaning they would get their hats and their shirts and pop the champagne and everything in the locker room. And you have players already thinking about that as you're up 21-0. And this is, I think it has a great chance to help them in that they now learn that, no, the game ain't over. You got to play all 4 quarters. That's why the football is played in 4 quarters, is for teams to turn it around and make comebacks on you potentially. And so I think it's a huge, huge, huge wake-up opportunity. And honestly, I think it helps them more that they allowed Buffalo to have that comeback, because coming into this game, they had won 10 games in a row. They were 11-2. They're hot as can be. And imagine if they just go out and win that game 28-7 or 35-14. Do they really take anything from it? And then maybe they come into the first round of playoffs and they're not the 1 seed and they get popped by the 7 seed, whoever that ends up being, whether it could be Houston, it could be Justin Herbert and the Chargers.
Yeah.
The season's over at that point. The season is not over now for New England. The 1 seed is over, but winning the AFC East is pretty likely as long as they can win 2 of their next 3 games. So they get the great chance of having a wake-up call, and Mike Vrabel gets the great chance of re-motivating a team at this point in the season. I think I'm pretty sure it's Saban, but Saban talks about a ton in terms of how do you continue to motivate a team that continues to win. And it's one of the hardest things to do as a coach. Well, now that they've got popped and they've had this comeback on them, I think it gives them a great opportunity to turn it around. All of that being said, they got to go do that.
Yeah.
And I think they have to do that and show that this Sunday night against Baltimore.
And I think they will.
If they, I think they will too. I'm going to pick New England probably in that game. I would imagine we're previewing that game as well on Thursday. But if they don't, then I don't care what they do against the Jets and the Dolphins the final 2 weeks. I think they're very well on the board in terms of losing that first-round playoff game and having a one-and-done season. It would be an incredible season for New England in their first year with Mike Vrabel, and they take it. But a team that was, as their fans are saying, are back. It feels like Brady, when Brady was here, we're on top of the AFC East again. For it to disappear just like that, I think it's it would. I wouldn't want to be in that spot as a fan.
It has to sting for the fans and for the players, and that is why I think they'll bounce back. Plus, it's just Mike Vrabel. I'm sure he'll get them right. And while it stings, I bet they can help lessen the feeling of that sting and find some comfort potentially in some Ann Michael May baked goods that she's been providing with the teams every day. I don't know if you all have seen that. I would love to be a Patriot. Just get some sweet treats every day. Tough loss. Here's your peppermint cookie. Like, thank you, Ann Michael May. Also fire, my sister's name's Ann Michael, and I've never heard anyone else with that name. And she did an interview where she was like, or he did. He was like, people don't get her name being a double name. They
That's
want to call her
crazy.
Ann May, and I was like, huh?
In the South,
I
double
feel
names
that.
are just maybe it's a Southern thing. I don't know.
And that's exactly what he said in the interview. It's a Southern thing. So
yeah.
that's like up here, everyone just doesn't understand at all that her name is Ann Michael.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good point. I know in the moment the loss really hurts, but I think you said good things that like everything is still in front of them. They could still potentially probably win the division. They could still make a playoff run. There were still bright spots from this game. Travion Henderson really continues to come along nicely. He had multiple huge touchdown runs in this game, which is kind of why you brought him in, was for the home run potential, and he flashed that twice in this game. And then for the Bills, obviously, there's a lot of positives because you win this game. You fight out of the hole. You just kind of show that with Josh Allen and James Cook and that offense, even if the defense doesn't have their best day, you're going to go into any game with a chance.
Yeah.
Any game with a chance.
And it goes back to what JP said about, taking advantage of a loss. And I compared it to something I know. In 2018, Mississippi State women's basketball was undefeated in the regular season. We go into the SEC championship SEC tournament. We lose the championship to South Carolina. And I think that, the coach and all the fans kind of looked at it as almost a blessing because it kind of took a weight off of our backs. I mean, we had an undefeated season at that time, so it's almost like losing a 4.0, early in your college career as opposed to late.
Sure.
So that it doesn't loom over you, in your final semesters. And maybe the Patriots can kind of take that approach of, all right, like, we still have a lot to fight, a lot to fight for, as opposed to feeling like everything is just kind of given to you. It's like, oh, the AFC East is ours, the 1 seed is ours. Like, I think that this team might, benefit from feeling like they have a lot to fight for and a lot to kind of rally together and go get that. And I think Vrabel can use that as opposed to feeling like they can just sit on their butts and let everything fall into their laps, because that's just kind of how they feel like that's what they're going to get. Do you want to talk about the Bills at all? They won the game.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, JP.
I'll start. I didn't think even when they went down 21-0 that they were out of it, and that's very easy to say in hindsight. But I believe it because what did I say was a huge key for Buffalo coming into this game was turnovers. Yep. They hadn't turned the ball over yet. They don't turn it over the entire day, and so when you don't turn it over and you don't waste a possession, you're allowed to and you're able to make this kind of comeback and have this kind of comeback on the road. So I think a credit and a testament to them that in a tough environment, they didn't. My biggest one is it is so impressive, I think is the word I'm looking for. There's a better word for it, a more impressive word than impressive, but it was impressive how
It was impressively impressive.
disciplined they were in terms of the run game, how they did not go away from it. They were down 21-0, and Josh Allen only threw the ball 28 times in this game. He has thrown the ball more than 28 times, 5 times this season. So they've been in a ton of shootouts this season. To throw it 28 times in a shootout, to throw it less times than the amount of points you score I think is always impressive. And to do that when being down 21-0 and not abandoning what is their best weapon, which is James Cook in that run game, it is so impressively impressive, like Jack was saying. I think that it's going to be a huge, if they are able to do that and stay disciplined in that and not turn the ball over, because they limit the amount of times Josh puts the ball in harm's way, they can get punched in the mouth early, and they are able to make these kinds of comebacks, and they become the inevitable one, like Kansas City has been for numerous years, where even when, I was a Deshaun Watson fan because he went to Clemson, and so when the Texans are up 24-0 against the Chiefs in Arrowhead in the divisional round, I even knew then it wasn't over, and the Chiefs end up turning around, and all of a sudden they're up 42-31. Buffalo can do that as long as they're able to stay consistent with the ground game and Josh doesn't turn the ball over. So I think it was another performance for them. Now 3 wins in a row against 3 teams that are eyeing for playoff spots. I think it's building on these performances, and as long as they're in the dance and they've shown as a team that they can do these kinds of things, it's a huge psychological edge, because they're going to be playing against teams, quarterbacks, coaches without a ton of playoff experience, and that will weigh on the opposing team if they know that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills are on that side. Even though we're up 21-0 at home, it doesn't matter. It's not over. That's going to force you to make questionable decisions. That's going to make you press. What did teams do a ton through the Kansas City era was go for it when they didn't need to. In that Texans game I mentioned, the 24-0 comeback, the Texans went for a stupid fake punt and handed Kansas City a free touchdown in that game. That is something that can happen when you have the psychological edge, and I think they're going to have that in the postseason, especially when they have performances like they did Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to roll at this point into any playoff game with the quarterback advantage, or at least feeling like you have the quarterback advantage. I think Josh Allen's playing the best out of any quarterback in the league right now, just factoring especially what he does on the ground game, too, and what can do in the ground game, because obviously Matthew Stafford's having a fantastic year slinging the rock. But just in terms of the burden he shoulders and how much he can deliver, like, you just have to feel great about that anytime. And then especially thinking of, like you said, some of the other teams that are going to be in the playoffs that are good teams, but they're just really untested. You just have to feel fantastic about having Josh Allen to handle that. I think that's a fantastic point. Anything else before we move on to our next game?
I'm good.
Cool. Oh, Packers. You let me down, man. I've been calling the Broncos frauds for weeks now because I don't like their offense. Their defense is great, but I don't think their defense is great enough to carry a mediocre offense. Well, Bo Nix had a fantastic day. Throws for over 300 yards. One of his best games as a pro. Slung the rock around. It's a great Packers defense. You put up 34 points on them. You have to love that. You win at home yet again. You've won 11 straight games. You've clinched a playoff spot. The vibes are immaculate in Denver right now. So, Broncos, I'll no longer call you frauds. You are now going to get the almost definitely, not guaranteed, but almost definitely, just looking ahead, the benefit of having home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and that is, like I just said, you don't really lose at home. So that's a huge boost. And now you're really looking like you could make a legit run in the playoffs. And we already talked about for the Packers, it's a brutal 1-2 punch. You're first place in the division. You lose this game. The Bears win. You're no longer first place in the division. Oh, and your star pass rusher is out for the season and possibly more because of a torn ACL. Horrible day for the Packers. Now you got to try and regroup and face off against the Bears, who once again are first place in the division next week. Y'all's thoughts on this game?
I can lead.
Go ahead, JP.
Go ahead, JP.
It sucks. It sucks losing Micah a ton because it really takes a lot of wind out of the sails for this team. But at the same time, the Packers defense, even with Micah, hasn't been excellent the past 4 or 5 weeks compared to how they kind of were through that middle part of the season, and then especially at the beginning of the season. They have been winning games because they've been playing so well offensively, and they just couldn't get enough done offensively. So I think all the avenues, like I said earlier, are still there for Green Bay. It just becomes the next 3 weeks become really critical for them. On the Broncos side, Bo Nix, I thought, had his best game as a pro and one of the biggest games of his career as a pro. 4 touchdowns. That is now his 4th. Let me make sure I'm getting the stat right. That is his 4th career game with 4+ passing touchdowns. He joins just 2 quarterbacks ever that have recorded 4 or more games of 4+ passing touchdowns in their first 2 NFL seasons. Would you guys like to name those 2 quarterbacks?
Four
first
plus.
2 seasons in the league, not first 2 seasons starting.
First 2 seasons in the league.
Deshaun Watson.
No.
Is Mahomes on the list?
No way.
Mahomes is one of the 2.
Yeah.
He had 4 games of 4+ touchdowns in 1 year, his second year.
I mean, that was the height of that offense, man. His first couple years as a starter.
I guess. Trying to think about guys that came into dynamic offenses. I mean, what year, Jared?
I'll give you a hint.
Go ahead.
Miami Dolphins.
It's not. Is
Is it
Tua?
Tua?
No, it's
Okay.
Dan Marino.
Dan Marino.
Okay.
Dang. That would have been my pivot. Hey,
No, it is not Tua.
Tua came in slinging that thing, man.
Yeah, I guess. Is that all of them? You said there were 3 others?
That's the 2.
There's
Okay,
two.
Joins
3
those
total.
3. Both of them have had more than that. It might be their first 2 years as a starter. The stat that I'm reading doesn't exactly specify, so it might be first 2 years as a starter. Because I don't think I would. Maybe I don't remember, but Mahomes throwing 5 or more. Because both of those quarterbacks had more. But Bo joins a league company there, and he had a really, really incredible game. His passing chart was really, really good too. It's not like he wasn't throwing the ball down the field. He was 3 for 5 on completions, 20 yards down the field, which to do that, your offensive line has to handle the pass rush and give Bo enough time. So credit to their offensive line there. He wasn't just completing balls outside the numbers. In fact, he completes 6 passes inside the numbers, so it wasn't like he was just throwing it out to the sideline. He's throwing the ball over the middle of the field. They're using all parts of the field. The only thing they really don't got going for them is they don't really have the consistent run game. And RJ Harvey had a fine day, but like you hope for, with his speed, maybe an explosive run, a 20-yard run, but his longest carry of the game was 8, and I'm honestly shocked it was even that high. I don't really remember many carries longer than 5 yards in this game. It's good to gain 3 or 4 yards, but you want some more explosiveness there.
Yeah, there was none.
Offensively. But Denver's doing what they have to do, and they are fully in line to be the 1 seed going into. They could have. In fact, I honestly think they'll have the 1 seed locked up before they play in Week 18, and meaning they could rest their starters if they wanted to. I wouldn't, because that's 2 weeks off with your starters not playing, but they could. They very well could, because they host Jacksonville this week. I think they're only a 3-point favorite in that game, but I like them a lot in that game. Spoiler alert for Thursday. and then they will play the Gardner Minshew Chiefs in Arrowhead, which now that game's a lot less scary. So they could be handing your Chargers a free win in Week 18, Sanders. So look forward to that.
We'll see.
Although they might have the playoffs locked up before then.
We'll see.
They continue to do what they need to do because with that defense, with their home field advantage in Denver, which they continue to win at home, getting the first round bye is maximizing their opportunity to make the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
2 games, both games at home. You have to like your chances. In fact, I think you have to love your chances.
Exactly what I was about to say.
To make the Super Bowl. If they had finished as the 2 seed and they have to go like even to New England in the AFC Championship, if they had to go on the road, I don't like it as much. So they're doing what they have to do. And Bo Nix had one of his best games against that Packers defense. They're able to turn over a red-hot Jordan Love. So maybe you have to take them out of that fraud watch at this point. Spoiler alert to my segment later in the show.
Yeah, they definitely get a ton of respect for me. And I've already touched it. You've already touched it. I just want to reiterate. I think the home field advantage is it's massive for any team, but especially this team, and it being Mile High, and with that defense, you have to love it. If you're a Broncos fan, is a great way to put it, JP. You don't just have to like it; you have to love that fact. It's hard to win 11 straight games in the NFL, no matter who you're playing. I guess you just don't do that as frauds, so that's why I'll no longer call you frauds. It is what it is. I wish I still could. I enjoyed it while it lasted.
Bo Nix kind of Bryce Young'd you because JP talked, about Bryce Young not having 200 passing yards, and then he had that one game, 400? He had 400?
Like 398.
Yeah, so he kind of Bryce Young'd you, Jack. After all of you calling the offense fraudulent, he goes out and throws for 4 touchdowns and 300 yards. So
yeah, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. It was a great game, and he is a competitor. I just still, when the lights are brightest, it's the biggest moments. I don't know if he's the guy I want back there as competitive as he is, as much of a gamer as he is. I just think he has a liability to miss some throws and make some bad reads still as a guy with not tons of experience. And I'm going to be honest, is also slightly biased. I've disliked him ever since his first collegiate game where he beat Oregon on the worst game-winning throw of all time, and the announcers glazed it for 5 minutes. You got to go watch the throw at some point because the definition of a floaty duck that the receiver just little bros the DB on, and this is why you bring Bo Nix to Auburn. He's going to be the savior of Auburn, because I think he started as a true freshman.
Yeah, he was a true freshman.
And then after 2 years, transfers out because it went so poorly. But yeah, huge win. And for the Packers, you just got to regroup. You lost on the road in Mile High to the 1 seed in the AFC. Yes, you lost Micah, but there's no reason to get too down on it.
That's not that floaty.
That thing is floaty, man.
That's not that bad a throw.
It's a bad throw.
I think we're getting, when you say floaty duck, he put it exactly. The receiver had his guy.
Lil Bros
he had
the
his
DB.
guy boxed out, and he
Receiver
just
Lil
throws
Bros
it.
the
It
DB.
just throws him a dart. If he floats it, the DB's got a chance.
He says a prayer. He basically throws up a prayer, man.
No, that is crazy. No, that's
You got to throw that outside, away from the DB.
that's a bad take by Jack. I'm not
You
gonna
throw
lie. That
you
is
throw
not
it
a
into
bad
the DB.
It's not great. It's not elite by any means. But to be like, yeah, I hate this guy because the announcers glazed this awful throw. For
It's not
5
an
minutes.
awful throw. It is not a good throw. And we're getting sidetracked now.
We are getting sidetracked.
Any other thoughts on this game before we move on? Cool. We're moving on.
All right, bet.
The Lions go to the Rams really, really needing a win. And despite their offense doing just about everything it can, the defense allows 41 points, and the Rams win at home 41-34. And the Lions are really staring down the barrel of a truly disappointing and disastrous season. Y'all's thoughts on this game?
Go ahead, JP.
Well, yeah, you're speaking to it. I don't have them in, and their only way in realistically is to win out. But they can win out and still not make the postseason. If Chicago is able to win against Green Bay this week and Chicago is able to go and then win in San Francisco, if they're able to do those two things, Detroit can win out and not make it. And Detroit has 2 winnable games in front of them with the Steelers coming into town, and then they play 9 in Week 17, and then they go to Chicago Week 18. I think we're staring down the barrel of a win and in between Chicago and Detroit. Winner gets the 7 seed, and if Detroit wins, they would get the 7 seed. If Chicago wins, they'll win the division. So that I think you're looking at Sunday Night Football, cold weather, Jared Goff having to go to Chicago, which is why, like you said, this game became so critical, and it was so necessary to win this game. And sadly, with the way the NFC has gone this year, this is where your season is gotten to, where you have to beat the number 1 seed and number 1 team on the totem pole and the pyramid and power rankings and in the NFC, and they've got the MVP, and they're playing at home and they're hot as can be. When you don't win enough games, this is where it gets to. When you let 9 come into your building and beat you on your turf, this is where it gets you. It's a sad reality, I'd have to imagine, for Lions fans. But I want to give them credit. They played really, really well offensively, and I don't think they were going to stop the Rams that well defensively in this game.
No,
I know we talked about it as this was going to be a shootout. This was going to be guns blazing. It was the highest total of the week, and a really high total for an NFL game, and they lost the shootout. And that it's again losing games in the way that they win games, which is winning games by scoring a ton of points. They again clearly don't have the horses defensively to hold up in a game like this. So it sucks for Detroit Lions fans, but they've got to win out, and they need Chicago to go lose either this week or in San Francisco to have a chance even in Week 18, because it's looking really grim for them.
Yeah, and I mean, talk about the cold weather Goff is going to have to play in, and other factors, just the general inconsistencies that have led them to being 8-6 also lead you to feel horrible about the odds of them winning out. So it does suck. I guess I don't expect to make the playoffs, so I'm just looking for the offseason. Some defensive retooling is definitely going to need to be done, because it has to be better than this. I know it's the Rams, but when the offense plays like this, the defense has to come through in some capacity. And I know there's some injuries, but even still, this just can't happen.
Agreed.
I don't really have too much. Go ahead. I was just saying, I don't really have too much on the Rams. I mean, just another kind of keep doing what you're doing. The Devontae Adams hamstring stuff is something to monitor. I've not seen anything of that post game, or since the game in terms of how he's doing. But the offense is just flying high, doing what it does. It did it yet again. The weapons are insane, and the defense does enough, I guess.
They may not even need him. Devontae didn't have a catch in this game, and they scored 41 points. It is going to hurt to not have that kind of weapon, but I wouldn't rush him back on these last 3 weeks. That you don't need to, especially not this Thursday against Seattle.
Yeah,
with the short week, definitely no reason to play him on Thursday.
Peter Schrager said in an interview today he's unlikely to play Thursday, so there you go.
Yeah. I wouldn't even play him the following week. I'd consider not playing him until the final week of the season, because at Week 17 you play in Atlanta, and if I'm not mistaken, that game is on Monday Night Football. Yeah, that game's on Monday Night Football, so maybe you could play him on that Monday. But I would even potentially save him until Week 18 and play him in that game, and get him tuned up for the postseason. Sure. You don't need to risk him coming back. I don't think the 1 seed is going to matter as much for them as we've talked about with Green Bay and New England and Denver. They, with their offensive firepower, can go win really anywhere. And cold weather is a question, but last year in the snow game against the Eagles, they have the ball with a chance to go win the game inside Philly's 20. and they don't end up getting it done.
Yeah.
So they can play in the cold weather. They're not worried about that. So I don't think the 1 seed matters as much for them. The health will be a big one. Having Devontae Adams there is going to help them a ton. The way Detroit defended him was hilarious in this game because before he got hurt, Los Angeles, I think, had 2 different red zone drives with him, and they were putting like 4 or 5 guys on him because he has, I think it's either 11 or 10 red zone touchdowns this year.
Yeah, it's
And
ridiculous.
so he's been like their key weapon. And so the Lions were just saying, no, you're not throwing a touchdown to Devontae in the red zone. Throw it to anybody else. And yet still there was a ball Stafford was able to get to him, and he wasn't able to reel it in. Also, like, how much did LA pay the refs? And how much did Colby Parkinson pay the refs? Because that was not a touchdown. Did y'all see that?
I did not see that. I need to go watch it then.
I'm gonna pull
We
it up.
need to
real
go
quick.
look it up because a deep touchdown, it's like a 26-yard touchdown. Parkinson catches it. He very clearly is touched, and he's falling to the ground and is down at the 1. Obvious as day. Clear as
Oh,
clear
yeah,
as
that
day
is
on the
not a
pylon cam.
touchdown.
And they called it a touchdown on the field, reviewed it, and said the call was upheld.
Insane.
And I do not know how.
That's
not know
ridiculous. Did they ever show a
Um,
pylon cam view?
how. They showed the pylon cam view. I don't know if they showed it while they were doing the review. I can't remember because I was watching 3 other games. But it was egregious.
That's a terrible call.
You can't make that call. Force them to convert at the 1-yard line. So maybe that's a curious story going forward. But
The one
Devontae
thing,
injury. Yeah, go ahead.
the one thing I'll say is it almost looks like he's bobbling it when he's on the ground, and so does he just not have control until he's in the end zone? Is maybe that's what they ruled? Is that it never hit the ground, but he also never had control until he was in the end zone. Therefore, it would have been a touchdown.
It's another reason I wish, like Josh Pate has been saying, that refs would be forced to do post-game interviews because it was either Kevin Burkhardt or Tom Brady explained that what you just said there, Sanders, or maybe he fumbled the ball a little bit and then re-caught it and then he was down in the end zone. But we don't know that because they never said it and they never will say it, and we'll never know. And so it is one of those things where I wish we would get a better explanation. I wish we get the post-game press conference or do what the ACC did this year and let us in on the conversation.
Yeah.
And let us hear what they're talking about because that cleared up a ton in a ton of different ACC games this year. That you could find out exactly what they were talking about in their process. So
imagine if we had that last year for the Miami Virginia Tech game.
Yeah.
That would have been crazy.
That's probably part of the reason they did it. Yeah, it looked like he was short. Yeah, I saw a good tweet about the Devontae Adams, red zone touchdowns. It was like, man, so unlucky that Kyron Williams stole a red zone touchdown away or a touchdown away from Devontae Adams. Because, it's typically reverse of dang, the backup running back comes in and takes the touchdown or steals the touchdown. But no, Devontae Adams is just that good of a red zone weapon that it feels like the running back is stealing a touchdown from him in fantasy. I thought that was good. But yeah, it's a fair point that they may not need him, but he's like a luxury. He's a number 2 receiver or like a 1B receiver that you'd love to have. And you make a great point too, JP, that is like where they're at record-wise, standings-wise, who they're playing, how good they are. They probably can afford to rest him for a couple weeks and make sure that he's fully healthy for what matters, and that's the playoffs.
Yeah, you just want to be sure that in resting him, you don't accidentally take your foot off the neck or less aggressive. Take your foot off the gas pedal of either of the other NFC West teams because let's go. Yeah, you're tied with the Seahawks for 11-3, and the 49ers are 1 game behind you.
Sure.
So you definitely don't want to end up in a situation where you're resting guys to be careful, but then you go and you lose to the Seahawks, and then you lose the division, right? I mean, if the Seahawks win out, you've lost the division, I think. And then you go to the Rams and you play Monday Night Football. Not the Rams, excuse me, the Falcons, and that's just weird because the Falcons will occasionally score 0 against the Panthers or whatever game that was, and then they'll also occasionally just have a really good game and compete against the Bills, and they beat the Bills, right? So it's
yeah, they did beat the Bills. I agree. I think just since it's a hammy and since it's less so they feel like they're like taking the foot off the gas.
I agree.
As, like, they're just it's a hamstring, so you just want to be careful in that regard. Because also, I'll say right now, the Falcons are high variance. If you can't beat the Falcons without Devontae Adams, you don't necessarily deserve to beat the Falcons.
I was also just kind of addressing JP saying earlier that they don't really care about the 1 seed. I feel like that kind of mindset is not the healthiest mindset to be like. I mean, that's how I ended up failing classes in college is because I didn't care about the A. I aimed for the C.
Yeah,
and when you aim for the C, you miss.
Sure. You make a good point. I think they will want the 1 seed. I just, I think they'll prioritize health of the guy that has not always been the healthiest too.
Yeah,
he's someone that gets banged up.
They can lose on Thursday and still get the 1 seed. If Seattle loses to San Francisco week 18.
Yeah.
And Chicago defeats San Francisco week 17.
Sure.
Those things happen. Los Angeles gets the 1 seed even with losing to Seattle this week. So they don't have to rush him, and they can win their final 2 games and still have a path, a very viable path. That being said, like you at the beginning of that, you said these teams are kind of lively in this NFC West. So they 100% are. San Francisco is 3 games from the 1 seed themselves. They beat Indianapolis, they beat Chicago, and they beat Seattle. As long as Seattle beats Los Angeles on Thursday, San Francisco is the number 1 overall seed, regardless of what happens to any other team. So all 3 teams are really live for the 1 seed. That's how good these teams have been. San Francisco, like Jack said earlier, not on the show, but in the chat, has been a benefit of their poor schedule, but even with the amount of injuries they've had, I think you have to give them a ton of credit to even be here.
Yeah, those 2 facts kind of cancel out.
They're going to play 3 again. Like I said earlier, with you think a team might be fraudulent, they're going to get their tests. San Francisco has to play Indianapolis on Monday night and then host Chicago and Seattle. So like they're going to play their playoff games before they play their playoff games. We'll know whether or not these teams are actually there or frauds by the postseason. I think we'll have a really good picture of all of these teams, and with the totem pole and the pyramid's guidance, I think we'll be able to go on a nice little undefeated run of the postseason.
I hope so. With that being said, shall we get to the totem pole, fellas?
Yeah, let's do the totem pole.
Sure.
Jack, do you know how the totem pole did last week?
I don't think it did very well. Crunching the numbers in my head, but you can give me the official number because I don't know.
Sanders, you got a guess?
I think my prediction a couple weeks ago was there's 16 games in a week, and I had it going like 7-9. So I'll go, given your tone, I'm gonna go 6-10.
I'm gonna go 5-11.
Jack, flip those 2 numbers.
11-5. Wow.
Wow.
It must have just been the big. Was I bad in the big games? Because like I got the Packers game wrong. I got the Bills game wrong.
You had 5 misses. Those 5 misses were Tampa Bay on Thursday night.
And that one, since the solo game loomed large. Yeah, New England
against Buffalo. You had the Giants over your Commanders.
And I knew that one too.
You had Dallas over Minnesota. And then your last one was you thought the New York Jets would keep it close with Jacksonville. Those were your 5 misses.
Not bad. I think that's why I thought I did bad, because it was the Thursday night game, my team's game, the Sunday night game, and then kind of like the highlight of the 325 slate. So it was like 4 games that I was solely locked into, and I knew I missed those 4. But I'll take it. Shout out the totem pole.
11-5. You were 7-7 in week 14. So we're looking at 18-12 right now, which is that's 60%. That's a more than profitable model at this point, but we need more data. So Jack, give us this week totem pole.
I will give us more data. Starting at the bottom of the list, you have the Titans at 32, the Giants at 31, the Raiders at 30, the Jets at 29, the Commanders at 28, the Cardinals at 27, the Browns at 26, and the Falcons at 25. I have labeled that section, those 8 teams, I believe, the section of suck. I don't feel like talking about all those teams individually because it's more of the same every week, and These teams are not very good. They may beat each other, but I don't expect any of them to really put up a good fight against a real quality team. They're just simply not good enough. A lot of them aren't even playing for anything at this point. They're, for the Commanders, Jaden Daniels isn't even playing anymore. They've lost QBs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the section of suck, and I will labor on that no further as we move to 24. The Dolphins, they lose on Monday night. Their insanity runs kind of over of oh, hey, maybe they're a good team again, even though personally I never bought into that. I don't think anyone ever really did. It was all just kind of fun and games in that regard. And it's looking like there's a legit possibility Tua is not going to be the starter next year based on the way McDaniels talked about it in the post-game press conference of just everything's on the table, and that's how it should be. 23, we have the Chiefs, and it's crazy they're down here, but you've just not been a good team, and now you lose the one thing that has made you kind of competent, and that's your franchise quarterback and Patrick Mahomes tearing his ACL. So that's how you find yourself down here at 23. One spot behind the Panthers at 22. How do you lose to the Saints both times in a season where you're apparently good and contending for the playoffs and the Saints are apparently tanking and are rebuilding? That's embarrassing. That's like big brother, little brother stuff. That's we own you stuff. And so I'll hear nothing from Panthers fans about them being good because of stuff like that. The Vikings are at 21. Big win against the Cowboys, but I still don't really trust JJ to win you very many high-profile games. The Bucs are at 20. What has happened? Just can't win games now. The wheels have completely fallen off. First time we've really seen from them the frustration of these losses. Mike Evans is beside himself. People are walking into the tunnel early before the game's over because they're so frustrated to have lost the game to the Falcons when you're fighting for your playoff lives and you can't get that win. It's a terrible look, and that's why you're at 20. The Saints are the highest NFC South team on the totem pole, sitting here at 19. Have they found the answer at quarterback? Tyler Shuck looks pretty great. They're playing good ball. I don't really think the pieces there are all that great, but they're winning games and they're putting up fights, and that's good enough to get you onto 19 on the totem pole. The Bengals are at 18. I know they put up a 0, but Joe Burrow is back, and so I don't really expect that to be a trend of not scoring. I think they'll bounce back in the future. That's why they're at 18 still. Cowboys are at 17. Season feels over finally. Nail in the coffin. You couldn't beat 9 in prime time because the defense is so bad. It's over. Pack it up. Get ready for next season. Cowboys are at 17. Taking a breath. Steelers are at 16. Big win. They're still trying to make the playoffs. I believe you're now, 8-6? Are they going to finish just above 500 the Mike Tomlin way? It's kind of trending that way. You're at 16. The Colts are at 15. I have no idea what to do with this team, I'll be honest. The Shaman, I asked him, and he just kind of was it was like I had to try and see through this veiny face of this veil about that one. Didn't give me anything clear because you lost your quarterback. You rolled Phillip Rivers of all people out there, but you kept it close against the top 5 team on the totem pole. I can't really drop you, even though I don't really have great feelings about it. So that's why you're still kind of in this general area at 15. The Ravens are at 14. Good win. The defense continues to come along, and I hope Lamar Jackson and that offense really fully starts clicking again and figures it out. Moving on, Chargers are at 13. Shout out Justin Herbert. There's kind of a stretch a couple weeks ago where it's dang, they may not make the playoffs. They're really not playing good football, and they still have to find a couple more wins. Back-to-back wins, feeling a lot better about them. Moving on, Lions at 12. Great offensive showing, terrible defensive showing. You really may not make the playoffs, but I'm not going to drop you too much because that offense is so good. You're going to still find your way into being in a lot of games, so you're still at 12. Eagles at 11. You just poo-pooed on the Raiders. 31-0 just destroyed them. I feel like they got a lot of anger out about these past couple weeks, to be honest. It was stop, he's already dead, and they were still just railing on him. So, big win. Hopefully the vibes are up because of that. Maybe the positivity bunny comes back in the locker room after that one. It may be deserved at this point. The Texans are at 10. They took care of business. I keep saying it. The offense is coming along, and that defense is so elite. You just have to love them, if not just for the defense. The Packers are at 9. Tough loss. You lose Micah Parsons on top of it, so you're going to drop some because of that. Broncos are at 8. Just beat the Packers. You're no longer frauds. Congrats, Broncos. That's all I'll say on that. Bo Nix looked really good. Congrats. 49ers are at 7. Same spot as last week. They just get the job done. Doesn't matter who's out there, who's playing. Love their coaching staff. I've loved the job they've done. Brock Purdy looked pretty good. You're still at 7. Jaguars are all the way up to 6. I know they've been playing not great teams, but I love the way the offense has looked, and that's the reason they've climbed in the totem pole. The Bears are up at 5. Played no one good this past week, but a big win. Caleb Williams continues to look better and better. They're all the way up at 5. Seahawks are at 4. Pulled it out against the Colts. Don't really love that you had a, scratch and claw with the Phillip Rivers-led Colts, but a win is a win is a win. You're at 4. The Bills are up at 3. Huge win at the Patriots. It's a massive, massive win. But despite that win, I still have the Patriots ahead of them one spot at 2. I still love what I saw from the Patriots. I think they're a fantastic team. I think those two teams are neck and neck, and I just decided to keep the Patriots one spot ahead. The Rams have topped every edition of the totem pole, and they topped this one yet again. They put up 41 points on the Lions, who, not a great defense, but the Lions were fighting for their lives, and they knew it, and it didn't matter. You still just went and handled business. And they've kind of been the ultimate handled business team, and so that's why they're number 1 on the totem pole. And that's the whole totem pole. There you go.
Great.
Hopefully we have another good week.
I believe. Do we want to do your pyramid now, JP?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Take us to the graveyard. Sanders.
Well, the graveyard is unchanged. There
Wow.
is, however, a team that's going to be on graveyard watch this coming week, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Naturally.
If the Kansas City Chiefs were to lose to the Tennessee Titans, their season is over, and they will officially be off the pyramid at that point, which then that leads us to the teams left off. And the aforementioned Kansas City Chiefs sit there as the only team left off the pyramid this week with their performance both offensively and even defensively, giving up a touchdown at the end of the half to Justin Herbert in the manner they did. Kind of inexcusable in a must-win playoff game. And then with losing Mahomes, like Jack said, you lose probably 3 to 4 points, if not more, worth of quarterback play. Maybe 7 or 6 points, some might even say. They were roughly like 12.5, 13-point favorites against the Tennessee Titans before the Mahomes injury. Would you guys like to guess the spread for the Gardner Minshew Chiefs in Nashville against the Tennessee Titans?
I'm going to go Chiefs. How much was it you said?
It was 12.5, 13.5, depending on the book.
I'll say 7.5.
I was going to say 5.5.
It's 3.5.
Wow.
Guys. It's
See,
3.5.
I wanted to say that, but also I just didn't think there was any way that Patrick Mahomes was worth 10 points.
I think it's more than
And
just Patrick Mahomes being worth 10 points. It's that plus
This
you're eliminated from the
season's over.
playoffs.
I guess.
And also not just Patrick Mahomes, but like the vibe hit of losing Patrick Mahomes. Like
I don't know how Vegas calculates vibe hit.
I think they factor everything in because it all matters, and they're always on top of things. But like
The vibes are worth 1.5 points.
how is Travis Kelce going to get up and get ready to play without his partner in crime, Patrick Mahomes, right
True.
there next to him in the warm-ups? Like, it's over.
True.
Well, he'll have a place to stay at least. 'Cause
True.
Swift does have a place in Nashville. The Chiefs have bigger fish to fry right now, though. There's a ton of concern in the Swiftie fan base of whether or not Mahomes will be in crutches for the wedding, and that is right now their highest priority is making sure Mahomes is not in crutches come the wedding, because that would not be good for the Taylor Swift photos.
Not at all.
I know that they're really up in arms about that. But I'm not one to predict, but I would personally argue that I don't think he's going to be in crutches And I don't expect Swifties to know much about, ACL injuries and stuff like
I mean,
that.
they've only followed the NFL
But
for like a year and a half.
But yeah, and the wedding is June 13th. Like, that's in 6 months. He's not going to be in crutches in 6 months. He'll be
For sure.
training for the season upcoming. So I don't know why they were so concerned, but there were a lot of them that were concerned about this injury just for Taylor and her photos, of course, not Mahomes himself. Sorry, Mahomes. The Swifties have quickly turned on you. But that's enough Chiefs. Let's move to the teams that are actually good enough to be on the pyramid. And we will start with Tier 6. And you will see a team has rejoined the tiers, or the pyramid, I should say. That's the Indianapolis Colts. With the way that they performed this week against Seattle, I think Philip Rivers raised their ceiling, a lot higher than I had them last week. They were a huge success this past weekend too, for the pyramid, and certainly for the totem pole. Jack thought the spread, it was a lot closer, 6 points closer than it actually was, and he was very right on that. Pyramid was also right. We were only 1 point closer, but we still get just as much credit as Jack and his totem pole do. I think Indy's earned that right to be back on the pyramid.
I agree.
For the time being, and I think they will have a fight on their hands on Monday night, and I'm really curious to see how that goes. Would you guys like to guess the spread on that game, 49ers in Indianapolis?
Go ahead.
49ers minus 1.5.
I would say 49ers minus 4.5.
I'm really good at leading all straight. San Francisco minus 6
Yep.
is the spread this weekend. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, the pyramid does not agree, and the totem pole does not agree either. We're going to be all over Indianapolis. In fact, we get to do the funny one of the pyramid actually thinks the wrong team is favored. We would favor Indianapolis by 0.5 point this Monday night. So go ahead and get on that early on. That's a spoiler alert for Thursday's show as well. Continuing though with the rest of the pyramid, these three teams stay the same, and they've been here on tier 6 for a while. Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, and Carolina. Obviously, big game this week with Tampa Bay and Carolina in Carolina. I don't expect that to really change where these teams are located on the pyramid, unless we just see a drastic outcome, like Carolina gets blown out, the more likely of the two. Then maybe they leave the pyramid once again. But I don't expect much to change between those two teams this week. I really like where they are both at. Moving on to Tier 5, with Kansas City coming off the pyramid, a bunch of teams have to move up. And there are two of those teams that had to move up to replace – or sorry, I should say there were three teams that had to move up to replace the 3 spots that Kansas City dropped. One of those was Indianapolis, but the other one was San Francisco. And San Francisco is in line for the 1 seed, like I was saying earlier. They need Seattle to win this Thursday against the Rams. And if San Francisco wins out, they are the 1 seed. So everything is in line for San Francisco to be the number 1 overall seed in a year that you thought would be toast. Brock Purdy is playing fine. I think the biggest story here is Christian McCaffrey has found out how to, move and use his powers for the good of his own team now. It used to be, and it has been this season, McCaffrey is sacrificing players on his own team so that he can continue to remain healthy. He has now switched it to he is sacrificing his direct competition. The Kansas City Chiefs, the only team that kept him from winning the Super Bowl. He takes out Mahomes this weekend. The biggest threat, the NFC, he takes out Micah Parsons. Who's next? I would start to worry about maybe JSN. Devontae Adams is another person he potentially sacrificed this weekend as well. I'd worry about those NFC teams. We need to see who CMC is sacrificing as the days go forward. He sacrifices Daniel Jones, 2 weeks ago so that he gets to play Philip Rivers this week. CMC is becoming really, really dangerous and I think it needs to be studied, just like Mississippi State sports need to be studied in terms of science, where if one team wins, the other team cannot win on the same day, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It feels that way with CMC right now, the players and people that he's sacrificing just to stay healthy himself.
We could possibly get our shamans on that and see if they can give us a prediction on who's next, if there's any way we can protect some of these players against whatever voodoo CMC's conjuring up. We may have to look into that.
I'm fine with that. The rest of these teams, I think there's maybe arguments to move some of them up or move some of them down, but as we move to Tier 4, and you go ahead and put that up, I struggle with who to move down with them, and that is Chicago, Houston. I have Philly moving down to Tier 4, and then I had Baltimore moving up a tier and replacing Kansas City with their impressive defensive performance this weekend, and they've got the huge test with New England on Sunday night. I'm really hard-pressed to move one of these 4 teams down because I think maybe you could make an argument for Jacksonville with the way they're playing, the Chargers with the way that they're playing. I think you could even make the argument with San Francisco or Detroit. But really, with the way Baltimore has been playing defensively, I think they have earned the right to be here on Tier 4, just like Kansas City. Even though that their record wasn't showing it week after week because they had Mahomes and Andy Reid and Chris Jones and their defense and their pedigree, they earned the right to be on Tier 4, even though none of us thought they were really that good. Baltimore, I don't think, is much different here. Philly moves down, and they move down even though that they blew out Las Vegas, but they moved down in large part because I think a team above them outperformed them this week, even, which is crazy to say, blowing out a team 31-0, you still were outperformed by someone else.
Yeah,
but they were, and that we moved to Tier 3, and this was spoiled earlier in the show. But Denver is a Tier 3 team now at this point. They're completely off the fraud watch. Bo Nix has had enough good offensive performances, I think, to outweigh the really bad offensive performances. Their defense is really high level, and they had an off 2 quarters, and then they turned it around and were able to force 2 interceptions out of Jordan Love, which tied his season high in terms of interceptions this year. Denver's a really dangerous team, and they have earned the right finally, in my eyes, to be a Tier 3 team. New England moves down in large part of the team above them beating them this weekend and re-solidifying themselves. But New England very well could maybe move back up next week because there's some big games, especially with the teams really high on this pyramid this weekend, with Los Angeles playing Seattle and Baltimore's playing New England. We got some really big games for these pyramid teams as we get really close to the playoffs. I think the biggest argument for these Tier 3 teams, though, is not the 2 teams that move down and up. It is the Green Bay Packers. And I think it would be very easy to say they should move down.
Sure.
Why is Philly not above them when Philly went into their house and beat them? I think that's the easiest argument out of those Tier 4 teams. For me, I think even with the loss of Micah Parsons, they were a team I had a ton of trust coming into the season. I think Jordan Love has been playing really, really good ball. He just had 2 bad quarters, I should say, against Denver, but he was really good for the first 2. And with the way he's playing offensively, I think the sky is really the limit for them. I don't think they'll lose. They're going to lose a ton with Micah, but I don't think they're going to lose enough to move them down a tier. And I still, I picked the Raiders to go to the postseason. And, Sanders might end up being correct with them in terms of going 2-15, which maybe Jack could use even a blind squirrel finds a nut. But
I love that phrase, man.
I don't know if you can call me a blind
he's
squirrel.
Having a lot of correct predictions this year.
Maybe
Yeah.
he's just visually impaired.
Yeah, I'm about to
So
say
there's some
how
good
if
predictions.
the saying is a blind nut finds a squirrel once in a while, and you just said I'm having a lot of correct predictions.
Every nut is blind.
What?
You said if a blind nut finds a squirrel, every nut's blind.
If a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, but I'm having a lot of correct predictions, then it's not every once in a while.
Name 2 correct predictions. 3, 2, 1. See, I
No,
didn't hear any.
I'm
Nope.
right on the
Buzzer went
Raiders.
off.
I'm right on the Broncos.
Buzzer went
and
off.
I'm right
Buzzer
on
went
the
off.
Chiefs.
Buzzer went off.
So far,
Buzzer went off. Buzzer went off.
now have
I'm
I been
afraid.
wrong about the
You
Colts?
had the Chiefs winning the division. You had the Chiefs winning the division.
No.
You had the Chiefs winning the division.
Got a TikTok saying
You
otherwise.
had the Chiefs winning the division. We could
Jerry
pull up the
Jones screwed
official-
me. Jerry Jones screwed me.
Sure. Blame Jerry Jones.
I have a TikTok saying otherwise that I will be reposting once the Broncos win
and then
the
I'll
division.
repost a screenshot of you having the Chiefs winning the division and the official predictions.
No, I already took that video down.
Unlucky. I'll go find it.
JP, continue talking about your pyramid after that brief
Yeah.
sidebar.
I think, like I was saying, the biggest argument is maybe Green Bay, but I'm not gonna move off of them because I think Jack made the best point in terms of defending my argument here and earlier, and that is, you went on the road, you played a team that had won 10 games in a row, a team that has won 10 plus games at home in a row, and is the number 1 seed in the AFC. And has one of the best defenses in football, and you had chances still in that game to go win it. And so I think the fact that they still had the chances in that game when they didn't have the defensive performance they wanted is still a testament to the ability of this team going forward. And they very well could prove me right this weekend when they go to Chicago and own the Chicago Bears once again, which I'm all for, and I'd love to see it. But moving to Tier 2, Buffalo replaces New England with their victory over New England this weekend. What an impressive performance. 5 touchdowns in a row, turning it around. 21-0 didn't matter. I talked about it earlier a ton. Inevitability. They're going to be this year's Thanos in the AFC, in that you are not done with them until the clock hits zeros. You need to have more points than them when the clock hits zeros, because otherwise, if you give them a chance, they're going to go out there and put together enough drives to score enough points. And their only weakness, their Achilles heel, is Josh Allen turnovers. If they avoid that, they are the best team in football, and they will and can beat every team in the NFL. So no reason for them to not be here at Tier 2. With that being said, we've seen 4 games of them having 2+ turnovers, so they don't deserve to be on top of the pyramid, even with their 2 impressive performances in back-to-back weeks. They still have to stack games. That being said, though, like I said 5 minutes ago, big games between the teams up here on top of the pyramid. This could very well change next week. Seattle stays where they're at. They're stacking performances of they're not getting their best from Sam Darnold and that offense, and yet with their defense playing well enough, they are still winning games. And even in the games that they've lost, you think of their game in LA, Sam Darnold had one of his worst performances probably ever as a pro.
That's saying a
not
lot
his
too.
Worst. And yeah, that is saying a lot. And they yet still had a chance to kick a game-winning field goal against the team I have on top of the pyramid for another week. And their other 2 losses, the Buccaneers at home in a game in which Seattle has the ball last and they're driving, but Sam Darnold hits the ball off of his lineman's helmet and it ends up being picked. Unlucky. And then the first week of the season, the 49ers, Sam Darnold, Nick Bosa pushes Sam Darnold's right tackle into his hand, and Sam Darnold fumbles the football. Those are their 3 losses. Like, I don't care that they're not having tremendous offensive performances, and it looks like, like 2 weeks ago, oh no, are they about to lose to the Falcons? And then they turn it around the second half. And then this week, they're going to really lose to 44-year-old Phillip Rivers. They do enough, and they win the game, and I don't think they're getting their high-end Sam Darnold performances. So that actually, in my eyes, might be hey, look out, it could get a little scary because maybe we haven't seen an elite Sam Darnold performance for about 2 months now. All that being said, I don't know how much you expected the postseason, but for these next 3 weeks and 3 critical games for them getting to the 1 seed, starting on Thursday with the Rams and then ending with the 49ers, and then there's a game at Carolina sandwiched between those two. I think you're going to see probably 2 elite offensive performances still from Seattle to come, and they very well could be back on top of the pyramid. But without further ado, the team once again on top of the pyramid is Los Angeles. They're the best team in the NFL. Devontae Adams didn't have a single touch in this game, and they scored 41 points. They were not fazed whatsoever with losing one of their best weapons. They are the best team in the NFL, and we'll see if they can really lock up the division and the 1 seed if they're able to beat Seattle on Thursday.
Yeah. Great pyramid. I don't have any issues with it personally.
I have not an issue, more just a question. So the Chiefs are not on the pyramid, but they are also not in the graveyard. I was just looking, and I don't know if you put any thought into this. I believe every team who has been eliminated from the playoffs is in the graveyard, except for the Chiefs. Is there what's keeping the Chiefs out of the graveyard but off the pyramid right now? What's the thought process there?
I want to see 1 week of Minshew and that team. I want to see if they're defeated or not. If they still play with some kind of fire, if they still play like they want to win games, turnaround culture wise. For one, I need those performances for fantasy football. But for 2, when you lose your leader, they in these next 3 weeks, it very easily could get really kind of dark and gloomy.
Yeah.
In that you lose Mahomes, and now all of a sudden you're gonna lose to the Titans and the Raiders, 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. That can't happen. I don't care if you don't have Mahomes or not. Like, teams, even when they lose their quarterback, are still competitive, and more often than not, if they are as good as the Kansas City Chiefs have been, they're not going to lose to the first and the second worst team in the NFL. So I want to see that before I move them to the graveyard. If they lose to Tennessee, if they have a really piss poor performance, if it clearly looks like they have nothing to play for, then they'll be in the graveyard. But I wouldn't. I just want to see what their competitive mettle is, because that is something they've been given a ton of credit for, is their competitive mettle. They don't give up. They're in everything. Now that they're eliminated, it's a new feeling for this franchise.
Yeah.
I do want to point out something I saw on Twitter right before the show started. A Chiefs fan was trying to say that Travis Kelce is like the only person on the team that knows what it feels like to not be in the postseason. And there was like 15,000 likes on that. Another Chiefs fan retweeted it and said, "Holy Schubert," but not Schubert.
Sure.
And 16,000 people like that. How dumb are Chiefs fans?
Yeah.
You have plenty of players who have missed the postseason.
They don't think like free agency acquisitions exist.
Well, even if you go back, I mean, Chris Jones has been on the team
True.
since like 2014, I think is when he was drafted. And that's just a name that comes to mind because he's a state guy, but he's missed the postseason because they didn't make it every year from 2014 to 2017 or 2018 when Mahomes started. They made it in 2017 with Alex Smith at quarterback. But I'm sure there are other guys on that roster too, and I don't know if you know the roster better than me, JP. You play a lot of Madden.
There's plenty of them. Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh yeah. I mean, there are guys that
There's so
missed the
many
playoffs.
free agency and trade pieces. I
Yeah.
don't know how many homegrown guys there are. Chris Jones is a good one.
He's the only one I know of, and maybe that's what the person who tweeted that meant. But that's a pretty ridiculous thing to say.
It's funny.
I might believe you there, but I don't know how much I believe that 36,000 or so fans believe that as well. But I say all that to say I want to see Kansas City show their competitive character this weekend in a meaningless game. In a team that's trying to tank in Tennessee. Like if Tennessee goes out and gets that win, then it is very well they're off to the graveyard. And the playoff argument, like whether or not they've been in contention, like Miami wasn't eliminated for 5 weeks, and they had been in the graveyard for those 5 weeks. So
I wasn't
necessarily a rule of thumb for my pyramid. But it's a fair point.
I wasn't saying it was like they're eliminated from the playoffs, to the graveyard they go. I was just curious what the thought process was with the Chiefs. Other question, and we don't have to keep talking about the Chiefs, but like for context of your thought process, where do you think the Chiefs would have landed had Mahomes not got hurt? Like how much did that impact where you put them in the pyramid, or was this kind of they've been kind of not great all season. They've had an occasional good game, but they were 6, and I believe they had one more loss than they did wins. I'm not going to say how many that was, but they are now 6-8, if I'm not mistaken. And so, they were not a great team all season. The most recent team to be eliminated from the playoffs. But how much did the Mahomes injury kind of go into your thought process, and where do you think they would have landed had he not been injured?
It factored in a ton because last week they were in the spot where Baltimore was. And I go back to earlier in the season when Baltimore lost Lamar Jackson. I didn't move them that first week, but then after that week, once I saw Cooper Rush play, I moved them all the way down to the bottom of the pyramid, and they were at tier 3 at that point. They moved all the way down to when the pyramid still had 7 tiers, tier 7. So it factors in a ton. Missing a quarterback for the rest of the season factors in a ton, and that is why, like, if you want to go off points wise, technically Kansas City dropped 6 points with Mahomes. Odds makers had it at 10, like we talked about earlier with the spread.
Well, that they account for vibes. You don't do you don't believe in that kind of poppycock. You believe in the real analytics.
I
believe in analytics personally.
The best teams. Now, if Kansas City had not lost Mahomes, I still think, even if Mahomes didn't get hurt in that play, they were going to lose that game to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And then I think I would have dropped them a tier. I think I would have moved Baltimore with their performance against Cincinnati into Kansas City spot, and then Kansas City would be where San Francisco is. And then you're looking at 5 teams on tier 7 or tier 6, I should say. So I think it would have dropped in 2 points rather than the full 6. But they still would have dropped. Had Mahomes played. I feel like almost even if they had won that game, maybe I'm still thinking about dropping them with the way that Baltimore had played this weekend.
I think it's fair. Shall we move on and look at the games we're going to preview for next week and then get on out of here?
Yeah. So we can, and this will take, have some more discussion. Today is Tuesday, December 16th. We can do a Thursday show, and we can preview. Playoffs start this weekend, so we kind of have to do a Thursday show.
Oh, we're 100% are, yeah. We'll do all 4 playoff games.
Yeah. Do the playoffs start Friday? Is that right?
Friday night, yeah.
Friday night. Okay.
Playoffs start Friday night, but we'll do all 4 of those games, and then my votes for the NFL games are Green Bay at Chicago, Jacksonville at Denver, I had the third one in my head, and now I don't even remember which one it was, which is really well done by me. Do we want to do Tampa Bay at Carolina?
I was thinking...
Or New England at Baltimore?
I was thinking New England at Baltimore.
Okay, let's make that our third then. And I think that's it.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see. I don't know how we want to handle other bowls as assigned, if we want to try and preview all bowls in the upcoming week on like our preview show, or if we want to like on a Tuesday, if there's a game on Thursday, like throw out a preview. We can navigate that as we get closer.
I mean, right now we're in no disrespect to some of the teams playing. We are not in good bowl season yet.
No.
That's terribly disrespectful.
Yeah, Memphis versus NC State.
Kennesaw State plays on Friday, so
well,
they're the best game Friday.
Kansas State should be in the playoffs.
True.
To be honest.
True.
You could argue they got robbed. I'm not saying there's not good teams that are playing, but as a whole, there's some not great teams in
You
the
got
mix.
UNLV versus Ohio.
Parker
Calandria.
Navarro versus Calandria.
Calandria was ranked as the 17th best quarterback by Bleacher Report, I believe. I think they released their top 50 quarterbacks.
UVA legend, so that's warranted.
Yeah. I haven't seen anything out of UNLV other than they won games, and I saw some stuff about Dan Mullen because I follow a lot of state people on Twitter, but I didn't realize Calandria was all that. I didn't realize he was like that.
I would not call him the 17th best quarterback in the country, though I do love him.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I may have to go back and try and find the list because it was an interesting list.
Do they have Blake Shapen top 50?
No.
Man,
they did not have Blake Shapen or Kamario Taylor top 50. They had some. Hold on, I hope I liked the tweet. But yeah, those sound good. So 4 college football games, and then soon we should be getting into.
It starts 2 days after Christmas. 2 days after Christmas is when you get some good ones. Penn State, Clemson, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Virginia will play Missouri. You have LSU, Houston. And then you take a nice break, and then we'll have games on New Year's Eve. And the second round will be on New Year's Day. So
gotcha.
It's really Saturday the 27th is the big one. So I can't wait for our Thursday preview Christmas show.
Yep.
Joking, of course.
Yeah.
10 a.m.
And then
I could do.
Sure.
I mean, well, what if we started at midnight? You know, we start Christmas morning at midnight. It's technically a Thursday show.
I mean, if people want to, if people were gonna get on and listen live, I jokingly would say yes to that.
Yeah. Okay, I did find it, and it is not behind a paywall. So so I'm gonna just list out a couple of them because they're interesting. If y'all would like to
do it, and then we can hop on
give
out.
your thoughts.
I am interested.
Who do you think is number 1? This will be a fun game.
Is it from Mendoza?
Best quarterback in college football?
Best quarterback in college football, number 1.
Mendoza.
It's Mendoza.
Yeah. I would have said Diego.
He is.
He's 3.
He's coming up. He's 3. Who's 2?
Saying
is 2. 4. This is one that I was not. We got 2 G5 boys back to back.
At 4 and 5.
At 4 and 5 is 2 G5 guys.
Whoever made this list reps hard for the group of 5.
Yeah, we go G5.
Drew Mestamaker.
If Drew Mestamaker is 5.
Yeah. Gosh, who else? Is it no, it can't be Retzloff.
I would say Byron Brown.
It is Byron Brown.
I almost tossed that out there, yeah.
Yeah, so those are your top 5. So you got 2 Big Tens, Diego Pavia, and then 2 AAC quarterbacks. And then at number 6, y'all want to keep guessing down the list, or how do you
6 is SEC quarterback.
Big Ten.
Big Ten quarterback. Really? Oh, Maava.
Nope.
Jaden Maava. Oh, it's Moore.
It's Dante Moore. 2 ACC quarterbacks.
Is Carson Beck? Well,
No.
Haynes King.
Haynes King is 8. Number 7.
Is it Chandler Morris?
No.
Bro,
Not Darian Mensah.
It is Darian Mensah.
Yeah, duh.
Trinidad Chambliss at 9. I'll give y'all a couple of them. I don't want to make you guess everyone. But 10 is another G5 quarterback, so I'll make you guess this one.
Is it Retzloff?
No, it is not. This guy is the guy that halfway through the season I think had the best touchdown interception ratio in the country.
Halfway through the season, best touchdown interception.
I just remember looking at him and being like, yeah, he's got great stats, but he plays for a joke of a team. But actually that team
Is it the dude from UConn?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know his name.
Joe Fagnano.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Maava, that y'all guess is at 11. Number 12, your boy, Marcel Reed.
That's branding right there. Hashtag 12th man.
Yeah. Kevin Jennings at 13. Recent portal entry at 14.
Lagway? No. Disregard him being. That's insane. Rayola?
Nope.
Sorsby.
It is Sorsby. Arch Manning at 15.
Okay.
CJ Carr at 16. I have him in fantasy. hope for big things next year with I have him and Dante Moore. So, I'm okay with that 1-2 punch. Calandria's at 17, like I said earlier. Not sure how I feel about that.
Dog, I think we need to kick Notre Dame out of our dynasty league.
I'm okay with
if
that.
they're gonna remove themselves from playing in
I'm
a
down
bowl,
for that. We'll
I
figure
think
that
we'll
out
remove
in the
them
off season.
from
We'll
the-
talk to the commissioner.
That's gonna be.
As someone that doesn't have any Notre Dame players, I'm more than fine with that decision.
Oh shoot! I have CJ Carr and the running back who's going to be the starter with Jeremiah Love gone, or I hope to be the starter. I take it back. No, I would do it for the love of the game. I would take that. I would not mind a compensation pick. Maybe like a second or third round.
Sure.
We'll talk to the commissioner. Maybe we can work out some deals. Like an equivalent value pick, a compensation pick. But for the love of college football and because Notre Dame sucks, I think that would be a good thing. Or maybe we start to phase them out. Maybe we so we don't screw over people who have them. There's just no more Notre Dame players eligible to draft. I think that could work.
Sure.
Let's see. Jake Retzlaff from Tulane at 18. Carson Beck at 19. This is funny. Gunnar Stockton and Ty Simpson back to back at 20 and 21.
Too low for both of them.
Yeah, probably. There are definitely some guys who I'm like, and maybe it's just SEC bias, but it's the games that I watch, and I'm just like, I just don't know if I would have had them over some of these SEC guys. Bear Bachmeyer at 22. Other interesting names. Connor Wiegman makes the list at 27.
Gig 'em.
CJ Bailey makes it at 30. Alonzo Burnett at 31.
Go Dukes.
Blake Horvath at 32. John Mateer. Was Mateer ever the Heisman favorite? Was he the Heisman favorite at one point?
That I don't know.
JP?
He had to be close,
Yeah.
really close.
I'm not positive, and it may have been one of those things where they're just a bunch of guys tie for plus money. But Mateer's at 35, Taylon Green at 38, Ethan Kaliakmanis from Rutgers, that's a fire name. Cade Klubnik makes it, and see JKS at 41. I don't know if that feels a little low.
Yeah, Friday this list has prioritized people not in the spotlight, but they're
Yeah. And maybe JKS, part of the reason he's been impressive is the expectations, and also for being a freshman, he's really impressed. And so maybe it's Chandler Morse makes the list at 45. Somebody who just got a waiver for the NCAA. He will be back playing in the ACC.
just got a waiver.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
I'm
Tommy Castellanos?
Yes, it's Castellanos.
It is Lanos, apparently.
Yes,
which
Castellanos.
is against conventional logic. But
Yeah, but you want to know the guy that got in over Blake Shapen and Kamari Taylor
the guy
at
that's
50?
at 50, give me a conference.
Oh, I should know this. Apologies.
Conference
apologies.
USA?
I don't think so. What is it? It's a
Is it Ben Minucci?
no. Where is he?
Is it Western Kentucky starting quarterback?
No. Hold up. Oh, it is Conference USA. I'm pretty sure. What? NCAA. No, they're not. Are they
Is it-
AAC? It says they're AAC. Give me a sec.
Is it like Rice's quarterback?
No. I didn't think this team was AAC. Now I am really confused. American standings. They are. Apologies. They're American, so it's an American team.
American team quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm like, which
Blake
American team would you have forgot?
I don't think that's really relevant to I think there are probably a lot of American teams that I could have forgot.
But obviously it's not Memphis's quarterback.
Obviously not. No.
That's
He is on the list. He's at 44.
yeah. Is it Ja'Curry Brown?
No. Where is he?
He's at USF. Not USF, sorry. He's at he played at USF at one point. But I think he's at UCF now, so that's just a terrible guess.
Yeah.
At this point, just give me the team. I want to see if I even know
East
the
Carolina.
quarterback. Mike Wright.
No, it is not Mike Wright.
I wish it was right.
Who is it? I don't know his name.
Caton
Way
Hauser.
better.
Oh,
Yeah,
shout out Caden
Hauser's
Hauser.
way better.
So yeah, Caden Hauser made the list over Blake Shapen and Kamari Taylor. So do with that what you will. As a state podcast, I'm offended.
I'm not personally.
I wish that like I could ask JP before week 10ish, whenever he sold on Blake Shapen, where he would rank him. Like JP, could you go back in your brain and put yourself in those shoes? Where would you have had Shapen as a top 50 quarterback?
Yeah,
Okay,
40 to 50s.
that's fair. I appreciate your
I
honesty.
Just think about how much or how well he played from a clean pocket. He was one of the best quarterbacks in college football.
Sure.
Week 10 would have been the week after we beat Arkansas.
True.
No, so that would be
Yeah.
even no week prior or yeah, right, yeah, somewhere around the Arkansas game. So I think that would have helped a ton in that. So yes, I think I'd have him top 40 to 50.
All right.
Fair enough.
Well, that was a pretty fun list that I was looking through today. Glad we got to share that.
Crazy group of 5. Respect.
Love it.
Didn't think I'd see it. Let's get out of here. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. If you made it this far, we greatly appreciate it. Hope you all enjoyed, and we'll be back for you all on Thursday to preview some college football playoff games and yet another week of the NFL. Like I said, hope to see you there. Peace.
See ya.